Have you ever felt like you're not good enough? Like success is meant for others, but not for you? What if I told you that the biggest obstacle holding you back isn't your circumstances? It's your lack of belief in yourself. Norman Vincent Peale, in his timeless classic The Power of Positive Thinking, starts with a powerful truth. Believe in yourself. He wrote this chapter to show people everywhere that confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you can build. And once you do, it can completely transform your life. In this video, you'll learn why self-belief is the foundation of every great achievement, how doubt quietly destroys opportunities, and the exact mindset shift that can turn your goals into reality. By the end of this video, you won't just understand why belief matters. You'll feel inspired and ready to believe in your own potential. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could be the turning point in your life. Believing in yourself is essential. Having faith in your own abilities is where it all begins. Without a humble yet firm confidence in what you can do, true success and happiness will always remain distant. But when you build sound self-confidence, you set the stage for real achievement. Feelings of inferiority and inadequacy weaken hopes, block progress, and hold you back from becoming what you were meant to be. Self-confidence, however, leads to self-realization and genuine accomplishment. This attitude is so important that this lesson exists to help you strengthen belief in yourself and unlock the powers already within you. Far too many people live in quiet misery, trapped by what is commonly called the inferiority complex. Yet, no one has to remain in that state. With the right steps, it can be overcome. You can develop a creative, justified faith in yourself. I once addressed a gathering of businessmen, and afterward, a man approached me. His manner revealed a quiet desperation. He explained that he had come to the city to manage the most important business deal of his life. Success, he believed, meant everything. Failure to him meant the end of everything he had worked for. Beneath his words was deep fear, a complete lack of belief in himself. He admitted he had no confidence and felt utterly powerless. He spoke of how the sense of inferiority had haunted him all his life, how it drained his spirit and left him nearly broken at the age of 40. He longed to find faith in himself. I understood that overcoming such a problem fully would require time and careful work, much like a doctor seeking the source of a physical illness. But for his immediate need, I gave him a simple method to begin rebuilding belief. He was told to repeat a short, powerful affirmation several times as he walked, again at night before sleeping, and again upon waking in the morning. He was to carry it with a sense of faith, and it would supply the strength and confidence he so urgently required. He accepted this idea with determination, stood taller, and walked away with a quiet resolve. In time, this simple practice marked the beginning of his renewed confidence and the turning point in his life. I watched the man straighten his shoulders and walk out into the night. At first, he appeared fragile, almost defeated. Yet there was a subtle change in the way he carried himself, as if faith had already begun to take root in his mind. Later, he shared that this simple practice brought remarkable results. It amazed him how a few words, repeated with belief, could transform his outlook and strength. Over time, he explored the deeper causes of his lack of confidence. Through proper guidance, self-understanding, and a sincere application of faith, his feelings of inferiority dissolved. He developed a steady, reasonable confidence. He often marveled at how life now seemed to flow toward him instead of away. His personality had shifted from negative to positive. He no longer pushed success aside, but drew it to him. His confidence became genuine, and his inner powers were released. Inferiority feelings often have many roots, and many of them are planted in childhood. I recall an executive who consulted me about a young man he wanted to promote. The young man had talent and ability, but lacked discretion. He revealed private matters without intending harm, and this flaw kept him from advancing. Upon closer look, it became clear that his habit of talking too much came from deep-seated feelings of inadequacy. Raised in poverty, surrounded by peers of greater privilege and education, he felt less than those around him. To compensate, his mind created a way to gain respect. He shared pieces of privileged information to elevate his standing. When his employer understood this, he kindly helped the young man see how his abilities could take him far if he overcame this insecurity. Along with faith-based practices, the young man shed his feelings of inferiority and became a valuable, trustworthy member of his company. I have seen this pattern in many lives, including my own. As a boy, I was painfully thin. I had strength, energy, and health, but I wanted none of that. I wanted to be bigger. I despised being called skinny and longed to look tough and strong. I tried everything to gain weight: special oils, endless milkshakes, mountains of desserts, but nothing worked. I remained thin, lying awake at night, frustrated and unhappy. Ironically, when I reached 30, I gained too much weight, became self-conscious again, and had to work hard to lose it. Beyond this, I grew up as a minister's son, and with that came constant reminders of how I was expected to behave. Every misstep was met with, "You're a preacher's son," and I grew to resent the role. I wanted to be seen as independent, not bound by others' expectations. Public speaking terrified me, and yet I was often forced onto the stage. Even now, a hint of that fear sometimes returns. I had to work deliberately, using every method available to build confidence in the abilities God gave me. I found my solution in the enduring techniques of faith. These principles are not only spiritual, but also deeply practical. They can heal the scars of inferiority and release the powers that self-doubt keeps locked away. Emotional wounds from childhood, the weight of circumstances, or limitations we impose upon ourselves. These are the roots of inferiority that block our strength. Perhaps you were compared to a brighter sibling in school, always told you would never measure up. You may have believed those judgments and carried them into adulthood. Yet history proves this belief false. Many who struggled in classrooms have gone on to achieve greatness beyond those who once outshined them academically. True potential is never defined by early labels, but by the confidence you build within yourself. A man who earned straight A's in college may not turn out to be the greatest man in the nation because his achievements might end there, while another man with average grades may go on to win life's real victories. The deep secret for breaking free from feelings of inferiority, which are nothing more than heavy, nagging self-doubts, lies in filling the mind to its very brim with faith. When a person develops a strong and living faith in God, it slowly shapes a quiet but steady faith in oneself, the kind that feels both humble and deeply real. And such faith is not born by chance. It is gained through prayer, through much prayer, through the constant reading of the scriptures, through absorbing its truths, and through practicing the discipline of faith each day. Ordinary words offered casually to heaven may lack the strength we need, for shallow or formal prayers rarely carry the power to lift us out of fear and weakness. But when a person pushes a soul into deep prayer, when the heart reaches upward with a stronger grip, then faith begins to grow. The greater the struggle, the greater the prayer must be. For even the scriptures declare that life answers back to us in the measure of our faith. A small prayer may touch the surface, but big prayer has the power to drive straight into doubts, into fears, into all hidden feelings of inferiority, and draw out the living force that strengthens the soul. Such a practice can be guided by wise teachers of the Spirit, who show us how to shape faith as one shapes any skill, by patient learning and steady practice. And for those who long to rise above their sense of insecurity, there are rules and suggestions that help clear away the shadows of inadequacy and allow the light of confidence to grow. The mind, when it has been crowded for years with thoughts of weakness, must be filled again and again with better thoughts, with stronger patterns, with repeated ideas of confidence, until faith takes hold within and builds a new way of living. In the restless pace of daily living, it becomes necessary to discipline the mind if we are to re-educate it and transform it into a true source of power. Even while engaged in ordinary tasks, it is possible to push confident and uplifting thoughts deep into consciousness. There was once a man who showed me a remarkable way of doing this. On a bitter winter morning, he arrived at my hotel in a Midwestern city to drive me about 35 miles for a lecture. We set out at a speed that seemed far too quick for such icy roads. And when I suggested we slow down, he assured me there was no cause for worry. He explained that he had once been a man filled with insecurities, fearful of everything around him. He dreaded even the simplest journeys by car or by air, and whenever his family was away, he lived in constant anxiety until they returned. Life, as he described it, had been miserable, burdened by inferiority and the absence of self-confidence, and even his business had faltered under the weight of these feelings. But then he discovered a plan that lifted him from such fear and gave him a new sense of assurance in both himself and the world. The method was simple yet profound. Fastened just below the windshield of his car were two small clips. From the glove compartment, he drew out a pack of cards, each bearing words of faith. Sliding one card into clip, I read the line, "If ye have faith, nothing shall be impossible unto you." He removed that, shuffled quickly through the stack, and replaced it with another that declared, "If God be for us, who can be against us?" As he drove, he explained how he had changed his life with these cards. Being a traveling salesman, he spent long hours behind the wheel, and he realized that driving time could either fill his mind with destructive, negative thoughts, or be used to plant seeds of strength and confidence. In the past, he said, he had wasted the hours dwelling on fears, failures, and imagined defeats, and it shone in his poor sales. But once he began reading and memorizing the powerful words on those cards, his thinking changed completely. The insecurities that once haunted him steadily disappeared, and in their place grew thoughts of faith, courage, and expectancy. The results touched every part of his life. For, as he pointed out, how could anyone hope to succeed in business if he approached each customer already convinced he would fail? The plan used by this man was a truly wise one, for by filling his mind with steady affirmations of God's presence, his support, and his help, he reshaped the very pattern of his thinking. The old, crippling habit of insecurity no longer held sway over him, and in its place his inner powers were set free. We must recognize that the feelings of insecurity or security we carry are born from the way we think. When a mind is fixed again and again on grim possibilities, on fearful expectations of what might go wrong, it will inevitably feel unsafe. Even more troubling is the fact that such thoughts, by their own strange power, often shape into reality the very condition that is feared. This salesman turned the tide of his life because he replaced negative images with strong and vital thoughts of courage and confidence, keeping those cards ever before him as reminders. Where once his abilities had been bound tight by defeatist thinking, they now flowed freely from a personality awakened by creative attitudes. The lack of self-confidence is, without doubt, one of the most common problems in our time. At a university, a survey was conducted among 600 students of psychology, asking each to name the greatest personal difficulty they faced. 3 out of every 4 answered that their struggle was with confidence. And what was true of those students can surely be said of the greater population as well. Everywhere one goes, there are men and women who live with an inner fear, who shrink away from the demands of life, who suffer from a sharp sense of inadequacy and doubt their own strength. Deep inside, they mistrust their ability to shoulder responsibility or seize opportunity. And so they move through life shadowed by the uneasy feeling that something will always go wrong. They convince themselves that they cannot be what they dream of being, and so they resign to something far less than their true capacity. And so it is that countless souls, perhaps thousands upon thousands, move timidly through their years, crawling when they might have walked upright, defeated, afraid, and burdened by fears that need not bind them at all. The blows of life, the piling up of difficulties, the endless multiplication of problems. All these can drain away strength and leave a man weary and discouraged. In such a state, the true measure of one's powers is often hidden, and discouragement takes hold more deeply than facts would justify. At such times, it becomes vitally important to take a fresh look at one's personal assets, and if this is done calmly and reasonably, the realization often comes that one is far less defeated than first imagined. I recall a man, 52 years of age, who came to me in deep despair. His spirit seemed broken, and he declared that his life was finished. Everything, he said, everything he had built over a lifetime was gone, swept completely away. He repeated again and again that nothing was left, no hope remained, and he was far too old to begin all over. Faith itself, he said, had left him. I felt great sympathy, but it was clear that his real trouble lay not in actual loss, but in the dark shadows of hopelessness that clouded his mind and bent his outlook out of shape. His true powers, hidden behind his twisted thinking, had retreated into silence. So I suggested we take a sheet of paper and write down the values he still had. He protested, insisting it was useless, that nothing remained. But I urged him to try. I asked first about his wife. He admitted that she was still with him, a wonderful partner of 30 years, whose devotion would never falter no matter what happened. That, I said, was one great asset. I asked about his children. He replied that he had 3, and with deep feeling said they were wonderful, for they had each come to him declaring their love and their loyalty. That, I said, was number 2, 3 devoted children who would stand by him. I asked about friends. He admitted that he did have some fine ones, good men and women who had offered help and who held him in respect. That, I said, was number 3. I asked about his integrity. Had he lost his good name? He replied firmly that he had not, that his conscience was clear, and he had always tried to do right. That, I said, was number 4. I asked about his health. He confessed that he had had very few sick days and was physically in sound condition. That, I said, was number 5. I asked about his country. Did he still believe in the United States? Still see it as a land of opportunity? Yes, he said, it was the only land in which he wished to live. That, I said, was number 6. Finally, I asked about his faith. Did he still believe in God? Still trust that God would help him? And again, though weary, he admitted that he did. That, I said, was number 7. So at last the list was written out. A faithful wife of 30 years, 3 children who loved him and would not fail him, friends who respected him, integrity without stain, strong physical health, citizenship in a great land of opportunity, and faith in God to guide him still. I once pushed the paper across the table, asking him to take a look, and there was proof that he still held a fair amount of assets, though he had insisted before that everything was gone. He gave a shy little grin, admitting he hadn't thought of those things, hadn't looked at it that way. And then, almost in a whisper, he wondered if perhaps things weren't so hopeless after all. Maybe he could begin again, if only to find confidence, if only to feel some power within himself. And indeed, he did begin again, but only after changing his attitude, shifting his viewpoint, letting faith sweep away his doubts and discovering the strength already inside him. That moment shows a deep truth, one expressed by the noted psychiatrist, Dr. Carl Menninger, who said that attitudes matter more than facts. Any fact, no matter how heavy or hopeless it may appear, is never as important as how we choose to think about it. If our mind gives before we act, then defeat is sealed in advance. But if our thoughts are steady, confident, and hopeful, even the hardest fact can be overcome. I knew a man once who proved this every day, not because he had unusual ability, but because he carried a triumphant way of thinking. Whenever others grew doubtful, he used what he called his vacuum cleaner method, asking question after question until he drew out their dust of negativity, and then gently replacing it with brighter, stronger ideas. His colleagues would often remark how the facts seemed different once he had worked on them. That is the power of confidence. It clears away the discolored lens of inferiority, giving us a truer and healthier view, one always tilted toward hope. So when defeat seems close and confidence fades, the best step is to sit quietly with a sheet of paper, not to list what is against you, but to mark what is still in your favor. For if the mind dwells too long on obstacles, they grow larger, stronger, and more frightening than they truly are. But when the mind instead affirms its blessings, its resources, its hidden strength, then slowly the heart rises and the spirit regains its courage, lifting itself toward victory, with God's help guiding every step. And there lies the most powerful thought of all, the surest cure for lack of confidence. The simple belief that God is with you, that he stands beside you, that he helps and leads you forward. It is a plain teaching, yet the most powerful one. To affirm each day that God is near, to picture his presence, to move through your work and your living as though it were already true. And when you affirm it and visualize it and truly believe it, that quiet faith unfolds into reality and strength returns, steady and unshaken. The release of power that comes from this practice will astonish you. Confidence, after all, depends on the kind of thoughts that live in your mind each day. When you think defeat, you will feel defeated. But if you train yourself to think in confident ways, if you make that a steady habit, then strength begins to grow inside you. And no matter how difficult the road, that strength will help you rise above it. For confidence brings with it a hidden force, a might that comes to your aid. The writer Basil King once said, "Be bold, and mighty forces will rush to help you." And time and again, life proves this true. Emerson, too, taught that they conquer who believe they can. And he added, "Do the thing you fear, and fear itself will die." That is the very secret. Fill your mind with faith, with assurance, with trust, until doubts and insecurities can find no room to stay. I once knew a man haunted for years by fear, and I asked him to read the Bible carefully, underlining every line that spoke of courage and confidence. He memorized those verses, fed his mind with them daily, until his whole nature began to change. From a nervous and defeated soul, he grew into a man who carried force and magnetism. In only a few weeks, he was transformed, no longer shrinking back, but moving forward with the light of courage. His power had always been there, waiting for thought and faith to unlock it. So what, then, can you do to build your own confidence? There are 10 simple and practical rules, tested by thousands, and they will work for you if you live by them. First, hold in your mind a picture of yourself as succeeding. Never let that image fade. Second, each time a negative thought enters, answer aloud with a stronger positive one. Third, do not imagine obstacles larger than they are. Study them, face them, but never inflate them with fear. Fourth, stop being awestruck by others and never try to copy them, for no one can be you as well as you can. Fifth, repeat often through the day these powerful words. If God be for us, who can be against us? 6th, seek a wise counselor who can help you uncover the roots of self-doubt, for self-knowledge begins a cure. 7th, each day repeat out loud this mighty verse: I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Let those words sink deep. 8th, make a true estimate of your ability, then raise it just a little higher, without pride, but with healthy respect for yourself and for the powers God has given you. 9th, place yourself fully in God's hands, saying, I am in God's hands, and believe that His strength is now flowing through you. And 10th, remind yourself again and again that God is with you, and nothing can finally defeat you. Believe it, affirm it, and soon you will feel the power of those words living within you. So, my dear friends, now it's your turn. Start believing in yourself today. Remember, every great success story begins with one simple step: faith in your own abilities. But don't stop here. What if I told you that real power, mental strength, energy, and focus comes from having a peaceful mind? In our next episode, Chapter 2, A Peaceful Mind Generates Power, you'll learn how to quiet the noise within and transform inner peace into unstoppable energy. So don't miss it. Subscribe, stay with us, and let's continue this journey together, because your best life is only just beginning.